Okay, it's game time.
Shoot!
Get down!
Hasta luego.
I have this.
Feast on this!
Welcome to the start of the showcase. So we're gonna start with the usual, the non-firearms, the one I always start with, knives. And there are two knives in this game. I'm going to review them separately because they have very different appearances and attributes. So, starting with this one, the survival knife. This is Jill's personal knife. You get a close-up, looking really nice in this 4K resolution. A mid-size, lightweight survival knife. Jill's personal protection knife used for close encounters. All right, nice description there. Looking good. Here it is compared to the OG counterpart. Even though it's called a combat knife in that game, I'm just going to compare both knives to the original knife because there weren't two separate knives in the original. And here's a real-life knife I found that's most similar to this one. So while the survival knife is in Jill's inventory from the very start of the game, you can acquire a duplicate of it in the underground warehouse in the basement level of the courtyard. This is more commonly known as the spider room, where you battle the Black Tiger mini-boss, just like in the original game. So you might have to wait until you defeat the boss, but after you do so, the knife is located on the barrels over here, which is also called the survival knife. Now, what's interesting about this survival knife is it has its own description, like so. It's a survival knife. Comes in handy in desperate situations. Now, if you're Chris, of course, it would be the other survival knife, but it would be the same description. Now, what this knife is primarily used for is to get the webs off of this door, in the case you didn't bring your regular knife with you, or you don't have a weapon that could get them off as well. With Jill, the grenade launcher with incendiary rounds could get them off. I believe the infinite rocket launcher could also get them off if you have it, but in any case, this is what it's used for. And there you go. Here's Jill holding it. And here's Jill's idle stance with the knife. She has a little hair flip that she does. All right, let's go ahead and test it out with Jill. Now, for some reason, unlike the last few games we went over with knives, there's no collision when it comes to the environment anymore. Reverts back to the original, slashes straight through the wall. So, we are of course going to test the knife on the most basic enemy of the game, a standard zombie. And we'll do a few of them just to see differences maybe in the statistics. Alright, so the first zombie took 13 slashes, the second zombie took 23, and then for the last zombie I decided to go for the legs only, and it took 21 stabs. So yeah, some variety between these three zombies in this room, just like the original, of course. And I'm not sure if going for the legs really had a difference, considering that one of the zombies still took more when I was going for the body the entire time. So I don't know if there's an efficient reason to deviate between straight, up, or down. I just know that in some games it does make a difference, especially when you go for the legs. Like, you have a higher chance of tripping the zombie up in certain games. It doesn't appear to be the case in this one. And also, I have to explain, why was I not getting grabbed that entire time? Well, just like the first trilogy of games, I am using a cheat engine of sorts. It's not called a debugger in this game, it's actually called a trainer, which a lot of the modern games have in some capacity. Basically, this allows me to break into the mechanics of the game and modify them almost in any way, and one of those mechanics is invincibility. What this actually does is it turns off my hitbox. So as you saw, the zombies were just not going for grabs whatsoever, and they were just staying on me the entire time. It did make the test a little more difficult because they were all within the same area as you saw, but it made the testing a lot easier on my end. I don't have to edit very much for it. Alright, that's gonna go ahead and conclude it. Alright, now for the other survival knife. Chris's survival knife specifically. I personally always regard this as a combat knife, because by its looks and attributes, it is way more tuned for combat. Like, look at that. Alright. Carbon reinforced alloy blade with serrated edges. Chris has been using it since his days in the Air Force. Yeah, really good description, just like Jill's, but even the description sounds a little more beefier knife, honestly. And once again, here is it compared to the original combat knife. I'd say this one probably is more similar than Jill's knife is. Here's a real-life knife that looks similar to this one that I could find. Alright, so just like Jill's survival knife, a duplicate of Chris's survival knife could be found in the basement level of the courtyard, in the spider room, or the underground warehouse. Of course, you gotta defeat the Black Tiger first, or just cheese it like that, and you see it's in the same spot. But it's taken the form of Chris's survival knife, and its purpose is the same, of course. You cut these webs with it. Here's Chris equipped with it, and here's his idle stance with the knife, with no additional animation, unlike Jill. And let's go ahead and test it out with him. And once again, there's no collision with the outside environment, so no wall hits here. Alrighty then. So now let's see what the damage difference is with this knife against those 3 zombies. Alrighty then, so the first zombie took 18 slashes, second zombie only took 5. Granted, I did go for the face, but I don't think that's gonna make much of a difference. And then the third zombie took an even 10 slashes. So, overall, Chris's knife is much stronger than Jill's knife, as I established the last time I reviewed this game's weapons. So yeah, that and the vast difference in appearance, it was definitely worth separating it from the other knife and not reviewing them as one weapon, because they are not, regardless that the game calls them both survival knife. So I conducted a couple of tests off camera. First, I tried the same 3 zombies with the same exact kind of slashes, and the results were slightly different. The first zombie originally took 18 slashes. When I tried it again, it only took 13. And then the second zombie still took only 5 when I went for the face. The third zombie only took 9 stabs to the toes when originally it took 10. So very tiny differences when I went for the same areas. But then I conducted another test and I went only for the face because I wanted to establish if there was a difference between a face hit and a torso hit. And oh my gosh, I got a crazy result for the first test. The zombie that originally took Chris 18 slashes went down in only 3 slashes when I went for the face. That is a huge percentage of difference right there. And the other 2 zombies went down in 5 and 3 slashes respectively when I went for the face. So I think that proves you do cause way more damage if you go for the head of zombies with your knives, but it also established that there is no fixed variable when it comes to damage points to zombies. Even though I don't really care about all that stuff in these weapon showcases, I feel like for the people who are curious, it's worth pointing out. So, if you want to cause the most damage to your enemies, go for the face or the head, if possible. Now, of course, you're not going to have invincibility toggled on like I do, unless you have the trainer on your end, so maybe bring some healing items with you if you attempt to do that. Alrighty, just wanted to get that out of the way. That is it for Chris's knife, as well as all standard knives. Alright, now we're gonna go over the defensive items, one of this game's exclusive features. Now these are found throughout the entire game, at multiple fixed locations, so I'm not gonna show you each and every one, it's just a collectible item that could stack. The first one I'm going to go over, which will segue greatly from the knives, is the Dagger, which is basically another type of knife when you look at it. By stabbing with this dagger, you'll be able to protect yourself and escape from hostile situations. Cool. And here's a real-life dagger to compare it to. And these weren't featured in the original game, so there's no OG counterpart. I can have it equipped like so, but it's not in the main part of my inventory. So the only way we can see it in game is on our character while it's equipped, but I can't use it outside of being grabbed by an enemy. So we're gonna go straight to the enemy testing. The only enemy that I'm gonna bother doing average amounts for are zombies. For everything else, I'm going to show using this against every enemy it can be used against, because the animation for using it is slightly different depending on which enemy attacks you. So first, let's see how many of these daggers it takes to defeat a zombie. Alright, so it took 2 daggers to defeat the zombie. Now I think across the board that's gonna be the case, at least for zombies. We'll test it on other enemies just to be sure. But yeah, 2 daggers typically is what it will take to defeat the zombie. Now, something to note, and it is important in case you're going low on daggers, if you happen to land a critical headshot on a zombie after you stab it with a dagger, you could actually retrieve the dagger back. So, something to keep in mind. Hopefully you get that critical headshot with your pistol, or your shotgun or magnum, if you want to retrieve that dagger back. Now let's show the rest of the enemies getting stabbed by the dagger. And that is going to conclude the dagger. And yeah, as you saw, most of the enemies only took 2 daggers to defeat across the board. Alright, now for the next defensive weapon, the stun gun. This can only be used by Jill Valentine. So let's check it out. A self-defense item. You'll be able to take down an assailant, leaving him disoriented momentarily. Here's it close up. See the prods, and apparently its brand is Catfish. All right. Here's a real-life stun gun that looks similar to it that I found. And the thing about this is the stun gun alone isn't what gives it its quantity. In order to increase the quantity of the stun gun, you have to find what are known as battery packs around the map. I'll show picking one up so you can see it. Here's an area that I know has one. You can see it really close up right there. And I'll pick it up. The battery pack. STUN Walker. A shockwave, an armed... I can't really read that word right there. Not sure. Stun something else. That text is just too bad to look at, and unfortunately I can't zoom in on that. Even with HD textures and whatnot, still can't read some of it. But that's what gives it its quantity. And here you can see Jill with it equipped on her back pocket. There you go. Now let's go test this on the variety of enemies. I have a feeling it'll take no more than 2 stuns. Alright, so as I predicted, it takes 2 to defeat a zombie. That's gonna be the case with all enemies, because it turns out there are fixed variables for the defensive items. The dagger knife does exactly 50% damage to all enemies, besides the tyrant, that can't be defeated that way. And the stun gun does 85% damage to all enemies. So of course it's gonna take 2 across the board for both of those defensive weapons. Alright, so now to test it on other enemies. Alrighty, that's gonna conclude the stun gun. A fun defensive weapon. Seeing those enemies getting shocked is pretty funny. Alright, now for the last defensive item. The flash grenade. This is a Chris-only defensive item. A self-defense item, normally used to disturb the offender's vision. Okay, so yeah, flash and sound assault hand grenade. I'm pretty sure that's what that stands for. Now, even though it's called a flash grenade, it still has an explosive effect. And I remember people commenting on my last review of this game when I said it doesn't act like a flash grenade. They all got really technical and said, well, it still produces an explosive effect, so that's why the results are as seen. And yes, that is true. It's obvious it still has to explode somehow. I'm just saying it doesn't function like a fragmentation grenade. That's for sure. Now, according to imfdb.org, this particular flash grenade is based on the M7CS gas grenade. So, let's just see it real quick on Chris's hindquarters. All right. And of course, only way to test it is on enemies. Now, I can tell you here and now, before we even get to it, this is a one-off weapon. It's like most enemies are going to go down in one hit with this. Once again, only the Tyrant is going to survive this. But I love the effect it makes. So first, let's start with zombies. Headshot from hell. Okay, now I also want to demonstrate you can explode the grenade a lot quicker if you pull a gun out and fire a shot on it. So let's do it that way, and it will feel like an actual explosive headshot. Boom. That's a headshot. Alrighty. So yep, that is the function of the flash grenade. And now we're gonna test it on all the other enemies. So enjoy the slideshow. And that's going to conclude the flash grenade as well as all defensive items. Alrighty, let's turn on the heat in this weapon showcase. We're finally getting into the firearms. And of course, I'm going to start with semi-automatic pistols. Being a new weapon category though, let's first go over the ammo. First, we got the handgun magazine. At least they call it properly this time, not handgun bullets when it's a magazine, or clip when it's a magazine. Here we go. A clip for the handgun. I spoke too soon. 15 rounds of 9mm parabellum. Okay, so yeah, freaking A. They call it handgun magazine and then proceed to call it a clip right after that. Come on, get it right. So there you go. Now, let's go over the actual handgun. Even though this is ammunition for a weapon class, this really is the only weapon that could use it, because even though there is another handgun in the game, it actually doesn't use that ammunition because it's infinite. But anyway, let's check the gun out. Ooh, looking really nice. All right. A Stars Custom Automatic. Fires 9mm parabellum rounds. Alrighty then. So yeah, this is the all-time iconic Samurai Edge for Stars members. Now, if you want to be specific, this is Jill Valentine's personal Samurai Edge. What gives it away is the blue medallion on the grip. And that being said, we have seen this exact Samurai Edge before in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Let's compare it to its original counterpart, which of course is a regular Beretta 92 FS, which is the real-life weapon at very base level, but a Brigadier variant. So while Jill starts off with the handgun in her inventory, Chris has to pick it up from the first floor main hall of the mansion, just like the original game, because for some reason he loses his own personal Samurai Edge Beretta. So here's Jill with it equipped, and here are both characters' idle stances with the handgun equipped. Chris just stands there, but Jill has 2 additional animations along with the stance. Let's go ahead and test it out. Alright, now, this is the one weapon where there's technically a quick shot trick. Let me demonstrate it. Okay, now, we're of course going to test this and the other pistol on regular zombies as well. Alright, so 2 of the zombies took 7 shots, while the other one took only 4 shots. So there's your average right there. Now, before I move on from this handgun, I have to show a feature. So, a while ago when I did the original game's Ultimate Weapon Showcase, you remember that I compared the custom edition handgun, the Enox version, to the Samurai Edge. Well, that is because, if you remember, that version of the regular Beretta had critical chance. Well, they bring that feature back and put it into the regular handgun. So this handgun does have critical chance, so I do want to score at least 1 critical headshot for you guys. Headshot. Let's see if we can get some more. Yeah. Alright, I scored the critical, so that's gonna go ahead and conclude the regular handgun.
Chris, this way.
Make for that mansion!
Wesker.
Wesker? Enrico, wait.
You're a bit of a mess-up. Chris, take a piece of the action. I'll investigate this area.
What? Get away from me!
Just like this.
Becca!
Don't move.
No, we've come so far. I'll take care of them.
Damn it!
Those things are coming.
Chris, you did a fine job.
Now for the only other handgun, which is also just named Handgun. But this is truly Barry's handgun. This is his specific model of Samurai Edge. Alright. An automatic that fires 40 Smith Wesson rounds. Okay. Not very much of a description right there, but here it is in its entirety. Alright, so this wasn't featured in the original, so there's no comparing to an OG counterpart. The real-life variant of this Beretta specifically is the Beretta 96 FS. Now, the obvious differences between the real-life model and Barry's model is the compensator and the extended magazine. Now, even though it's chambered in that ammo, it doesn't provide any ammo in the game for it because it is infinite. Now, Barry's handgun is an unlockable by beating the game under 5 hours in normal difficulty or higher. Here it is in game. Here are both characters in their idle stances with Barry's handgun equipped. Perfect. So I'm going to have Chris demonstrate this one. Let's test fire it. So an obvious difference from the previous handgun is the fire rate. It is clearly much faster. This is possibly due to the large compensator that's on the end of the pistol, and it's firing at the same exact rate as when I did the quick shot trick with the previous handgun. And there is no reloading it since it's infinite. So now let's go ahead and test this on some zombies. Ooh, landed a critical on that third test, so that nullifies that test. But yes, this handgun, of course, also has the critical headshot. I don't know if it has any more or less of a chance of critical than the regular handgun, but nevertheless does have it. Well, I sort of lost count at this point, so I'm just gonna give you your average on the screen right here. And yeah, overall, it doesn't seem to have any more or less firepower than the regular handgun. Its real main attribute, of course, over the regular handgun is its infinite ammo and its higher fire rate. Alrighty then, well that's gonna go ahead and conclude Barry's handgun, as well as all semi-automatic pistols. Alright, let's turn up the firepower. We're moving into the shotguns. The first one is a regular shotgun, but being the first weapon in this category, let's first go over the ammunition. Shotgun shells. Ooh, 12 gauge shells for the shotgun that scatter fires. That's an interesting way of putting it, but anyway, there you go. That's cool. It even has its own animation when you inspect it. It opens up, and obviously there would be shells inside. Yeah, that's cool. Really detailed. 8 cartridges, 12 gauge shot shell. Perfect. Alright, now let's go over the actual shotgun. Fires 12 gauge shells, a weapon that is capable of firing wide range. Okie dokie. Get a detailed look right here. Zoom in even more. Ooh, I like how shiny it is and just how detailed it is in this resolution. See, this is what the remaking era is all about, just the crazy quality. Alright, now here it is compared to its OG counterpart. A very clear difference in the detail. Now, this shotgun is not the same as its original counterpart when it comes to its real-life counterpart. Instead of the Remington 870 from the original, this is actually the Winchester Model 1897 Riot gun, 12 gauge. So just like the original game, the location of the shotgun is in the living room on the first floor of the mansion, hung up on this portrait panel right here. Now, Chris has no choice but to acquire the broken shotgun first before he can acquire the shotgun. That's because these two hooks that it's placed on activate a trap in the neighboring room, and you can't proceed with it unless you have the broken shotgun. Now, Jill, of course, can take it without the broken shotgun, provided you took the correct path in the game with her, where you don't come across Barry again until you take the shotgun. As long as you don't come across Barry after the initial split from the main hall, he will save you from the trap after acquiring the shotgun. Now, here are both characters' idle stances with the shotgun equipped, nearly identical. Unfortunately, Chris's shoulder tap still doesn't make a return, but he does do a slight tap with his hand at least, the only differentiating factor between him and Jill. She'll be the presenter of it. Let's go ahead and test it out. So Jill has to take a step back when she fires the shotgun. So the thing about Chris and shotguns is if he's in an area that has a boss type enemy, he has an alternative aiming stance, at least when aiming straight, like so. He also has slightly faster fire rate. So, shotgun being an improvement in firepower, we're gonna step up the enemy a little bit. We are gonna test the shotguns on good old Hunter Alphas. Alrighty then, so amongst 5 different hunters, all 5 of them took 3 shots. Pretty consistent there, you can't argue that. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about it. It's a good weapon for hunters, as long as you don't get stun locked, of course, and keep your aim on them. Alrighty, well, that is going to conclude the regular shotgun. Alright, now for the next shotgun, and the last one. The Assault Shotgun. Fires 12 gauge shells. A Star's custom arsenal, and also Richard's favorite. Ah yes, that hints at what the location is, which I'll go over in a second. But anyway, here it is. Ah, you can see the Star's logo on the side of it. It's nice. Here's it close up. Sweet. Alright, so this was not featured in the original game whatsoever. However, we have seen this shotgun before in the series. This is the same shotgun as the one in Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, albeit this is like the full version with the stock and everything. And of course, that being said, this is based off the real-life Benelli M3 Super 90. But it's not the M3 Super 90 full. It's actually a hybrid of the Benelli M3 and the Benelli M4 Super 90. The specific elements of the M4 it uses is the collapsible stock and the top rail on the receiver. But everything else is based on the M3 Super 90, including the way it fires, as you'll see, because the M3 is a pump action while the M4 is a semi-automatic. So the assault shotgun is a conditional weapon that has two different locations depending on who you're playing as. That condition is saving Richard with the serum before he dies of poison. This is because the assault shotgun is Richard's personal weapon, and you can only get it after he sacrifices himself for either character. Now for Jill, you get it a lot earlier, when you battle the Yawn mini-boss in the attic of the second floor of the mansion. Once Richard sacrifices himself here, you could pick it up, whether or not you actually ward off the Yawn. Now Chris, on the other hand, doesn't get it until you make it to the Aqua Ring underneath the residence. Now Richard's sacrifice occurs on the second floor of the large aquarium in this area, but his shotgun is located on the first floor right underneath it. This is because when you drain the water, it drains down to the first floor. And here it is. Pick it up, and there you go. Alright, here's Chris having it equipped. I'll have him presenting this shotgun. Looking really nice in-game. You still see the STARS logo in this awesome resolution. Here are both characters' idle animations with the assault shotgun equipped. Alright, let's test it out. It acts just like the other shotgun through and through. Same animation, same firing speed, same reload. The only difference between it and the regular shotgun is the capacity. It holds a total of 10 shells instead of 6. Although in real life this is incorrect, when the real life version I believe holds 7. Let's go ahead and test this on 5 hunters now. So across the board with all 5 hunters, it once again took 3 shots. So from those tests alone, and I'm pretty sure this is exactly what I said in the previous version of this game's weapons, there's not a high enough firepower difference between these 2 shotguns to make a difference on hunters, at least. That doesn't mean that they have the same exact firepower. I mean, it really would depend on the enemy. Certain enemies would probably give you slightly different results if they had a high enough health pool or low enough health pool. I think hunters just fit right into this specific health pool that, yeah, the difference between the 2 shotguns is just not enough. But I'm gonna just go on the firm belief that the assault shotgun does have more firepower considering it's called assault. Of course, that could just be because of its more tactical appearance and the fact that it has 4 more shells than the regular shotgun. So yeah, sorry that there's really no difference between them in terms of firepower against hunters. Regardless, that's not the most important detail with this showcase or any other showcase. Alright, so that's gonna conclude the assault shotgun as well as all shotguns.
Payback time.